One more transfer commitment before classes start.
You are Locked On Boston College, your daily podcast on the Boston College Eagles. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, everyone, and welcome. This is Locked On Boston College, your team every day. I am your host, AJ Black of Eagle Insider. Thank you for checking us out. We are your only daily Boston College podcast, and we appreciate each and every one of you who are checking us out. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code Locked On College for $20 off your purchase. Today's episode, we have a lot to talk about. We're going to talk about Earl Grant's verbal gaffe after the loss against Syracuse. We're going to talk about a huge weekend in basketball recruiting. We'll look at the status of a five-star that checked out BC and his teammate who also is interested in Boston College. And finally, we're going to kick things off with the last transfer Boston College will be landing before spring practice. We'll get into that to kick off the episode. Now, on Monday, Boston College started their spring semester and that usually means one thing. That means the transfer portal for BC. This is their unofficial closing of the transfer portal in terms of getting kids in for this spring practice session, because it's a school. They're not going to bring in people who are behind already in classwork. It usually is like, this is when things go. Now, everyone has signed and come on that we have talked about on this show, but they added one more. And that is Princeton offensive lineman Tommy Matheson. Tommy Matheson is a 3-year starter for the Tigers, played his first year as center, and then played his final 2 years as a guard. Graded out pretty well. He was in the 70s most of his time at Princeton. He is the second offensive lineman and second interior offensive lineman that they brought in. They also brought in Amir Johnson from Merrimack earlier in this transfer portal window. Now, Matheson hits a lot of the boxes that you've expected for BC during this transfer portal window. He played at an FCS school. Obviously, there's been a ton of them. We've had Anya Nuisi, I mentioned Johnson, Chuck Nato, Favor Bates. There's VJ Wilkins. There's been a bunch of guys. It's been what they've been going for. Clearly, the philosophy for Bill O'Brien has been bringing guys, most of them who have experience, who are hungry to play at this upper level. Bringing guys that have tangible talent that they can coach up, and guys that with a little bit of their home cooking that we have here at BC will be able to take their game to the next level. If you've been over on Eagle Insider, my site, our staff writer and video addict, Mitch Wolf, he watches film and he tells you everything. He's a scout deep down in his soul. A lot of these guys, whether it's VJ Wilkins in his speed or Amir Johnson, who has an explosiveness to him, they all have something that is standing out to him on tape. And I'm really interested to hear what he thinks about Tommy Matheson. But this makes a lot of sense. And why does this make sense for BC to get another guy like Matheson? A, he's experienced. You need experience on this offensive line. B, he can play two different positions. You can play him at guard, you can play him at center. It looks to me, it has not been officially announced yet, but Drew Kendall is gone. He skipped. He played 6 snaps in the Pinstripe Bowl, and then he was like, "Peace out, I'm out." He has been announced for an invitation to the Shrine Bowl or the East-West Shrine Bowl, which only goes to seniors. You can't be in college still and play in that. That's basically a camp for NFL scouts. So I'm almost positive he's going to be gone. Ozzie Trapillo is gone, and Jack Connolly are gone. So you're going to need 2 interior offensive linemen. There's a lot of different options that they have, and that's what you want. If one thing has been very clear to me under Bill O'Brien is that he likes competition. Iron sharpens iron. You want the best guys out there, but you needed to fill out your roster a little bit. You were a little thin at offensive line. You could not bring in another Amir Johnson. Amir Johnson, I'm very excited to see what he can do, but he was just a freshman last year. He still has some time that he needs to develop. You need someone who has experience. Now, Tommy Matheson, he fits the role of a lot of, of Seamus Florio, and there's a couple other Ivy Leaguers that are Michael Bumpus. There's a few Ivy Leaguers that are playing on this team They graduate and then they end up with an extra year, so they're trying to find something. So Matheson, he hits that. He had offers from many different Power 5 schools. There was some West Coast schools that were looking at him. I believe Stanford and Cal. So there was interest here. He's got the size. He's 6'3", 6'4", 300 pounds. He's not going to be on campus until the summer, though. He's finishing up his degree at Princeton, and then he's going to head to BC for the summer. So that might put him a little bit behind, but I think the expectation is he's coming here to battle to start. That's what he told me when I talked to him. He's coming here because he wants a chance to start. And, he's going to have to beat out guys, whether it's at center, Dwayne Alec, now that you have all this depth, there's a million different permutations that you can make. Like Dwayne Alec can play at center, but he can also play guard. You could play Otto Hess at center. You could play Amir Johnson at center. As I'm saying, that's what you want. You don't want to be pigeonholed with only one guy that can play each position or one guy that you're comfortable with. There's a bunch of guys that are coming in that have either played or you're bringing in as transfers. They're going to give you that opportunity. So he's going to be hungry. He really wants to come here and compete. Now Matheson is going to be that guy. Is it the sexiest pick ever? No, pickup ever. But I do trust what Bill O'Brien is doing here. I see the vision of where he's going with a lot of these transfers. And I think this fits. As I mentioned earlier, there is another transfer coming in. He's a preferred walk-on, so he's not a true scholarship, but many specialists aren't scholarship right away. And that's Seamus Florio. So now we have Andy Quinn and Seamus Florio, the all-Irish punting duo. Seamus Florio played for Yale, and he's bringing his long snapper with him, Ben Mann. Both of them are preferred walk-ons, but another name for your special teams room. Florio averaged about 39 yards per punt, or 37 yards per punt, excuse me. But I think what really needs to be said is what you guys all know is that special teams room needs a boost. Quinn, Florio, figure out who can do it. Maybe one of these other guys like Ivan Savenko, Sam Candotti, who are still there, Sam Stone. One of them is going to figure out how to punt. One of them is going to be able to give you consistent punting, and that'll be clutch. And with the combination of Mann and Florio, you fix the other part, which I think is equally important, which is the snapping and holding, which both were issues. It wasn't just punting. It was snapping. It was holding on kicks and punts for snapping. You need more bodies in there. You need some new blood. You got it. And so that ends the transfer portal class. You got 2 Power 5 players in Dylan Larnigan and Ty Lockwood, both from Alabama, and a slew of lower conference guys that are jonesing to get up and get to that play at that level. We'll have to wait and see how this, I said this last week. Is this going to be a strategy that works? It's definitely something that I'm very interested to see how it progresses. And we're going to get to start seeing that when practice starts this spring. Now, in a moment, I'm going to talk about basketball, who had a pair of intriguing prospects on that are going through the recruiting process for the class of 26. One of them is a borderline top 10 recruit. I'll explain maybe why Boston College is even in this discussion. We'll get into all that in just a moment. This is a message from sponsor Intuit TurboTax. Taxes was dealing with piles of paperwork and frustrating forms. Then waiting and wondering and worrying if you were going to get any money back. Now, Taxes is easily uploading your forms to a TurboTax expert who's matched to your unique tax situation. An expert who's backed by the latest technology, who's cross-checks millions of data points for 100% accuracy. While they work on your taxes, you get the real-time updates on their progress, and you get the most money back guaranteed, all while you go about your day. No stressing, no worrying, no waiting. Now this is Taxes. Intuit TurboTax. Get an expert now on TurboTax.com. Only available with TurboTax Live full service. Real-time updates only available in iOS mobile app. See guarantee details at TurboTax.com/guarantee. Welcome back to Locked On Boston College. I'm your host, AJ Black. Thank you all who have made us your first listen every day. And if you have not done so, we are a daily Boston College podcast. We do this 5 days a week, and I appreciate each and every one of you who have made us your first listen every single day. Now, basketball was the big story this weekend. Well, we should also talk hockey. Tough loss against Merrimack. They let up 5 unanswered goals on Friday, but came back and scored to win against Merrimack on the road on Saturday, a must-win game that they just needed really badly. So credit to the hockey team. They needed that. And Hockey East looks really good. 10 teams in the pairwise top 30. They're a conference that is going to be real tough. BC's going to make sure they're playing at their top level. Now, basketball played against Syracuse this weekend. And BC was playing very well and then had an 8-point lead, I think it was, with a few minutes left, and then proceeded to go on a 10-0 deficit run, or run by Syracuse, where they then just blew the game. It's the same old stuff. My podcast is meant to be positive. I can't be just ripping Earl Grant, but this is going to be this is a tough episode, and we're going to get into the positivity part first. And that was that number 11 recruit in the country for the class of 2026, according to 247, Toni Bryant of Tampa Catholic in Florida, North Tampa Catholic, was on campus for an official visit. He brought with him his forward teammate, who's also class of 26, who also has a Boston College offer, Caleb Sanders. So they both were on campus. They both watched this, which I'm sure you're both going, you're all going, oh, why do they have to watch this game? But, they put on Instagram, there's pictures of Toni Bryant and Caleb Sanders. They've got like a whole new setup for these official visits with like cool like backgrounds and lots of showing of the New Balance, which makes me think, I wonder how much New Balance really wants this to happen. But they both were there. They both seemed to have a good time. They went and did dinner in the Seaport area, it sounds like. And it was a great positive experience. I'm going to have interviews with both of them up on Eagle Insider in the next couple of days, so make sure you check that out. Why would BC be getting an official visit from Toni Bryant? This is a recruit that if you land him, is the biggest, the highest rated recruit BC's ever landed in football or basketball, bar none. Either sport, ever, historically ever. It's a 5-star, number 11 in the country. This is an NBA talent right here. Like, this isn't like borderline NBA. This is NBA talent. A big, big time guy. Why is he coming to Boston College is the question you're all asking. Boston College, he's not dumb. He watches the games. They're not playing very well. He sees that things are struggling. So why? Well, point number one is that he has a great relationship with new assistant Steve Smith. Steve Smith comes to BC from Florida State. Obviously, Florida State is in Tampa's backyard. So they know each other. And this could very much just be a courtesy visit. But I don't think of official visits like this as being just like a courtesy visit. It could be, very much could be. I wonder how much New Balance has to do with this. I really do. Because as I watch the videos of Toni Bryant on Instagram, and he's doing the whole photo sheet that they do at every official visit. This one seems bigger than anyone I've seen. But the emphasis, as I said, was on New Balance. New Balance has apparel. They do the apparel for the basketball team. They do the shoes. Obviously, basketball is probably going to be one of their biggest markets for their product. It's a rising market for New Balance. They are doing better and better. They're no longer just the dad shoes. They've got some cool shoes out there that are starting to get attention. You're seeing some bigger names in the world of sports advertising for New Balance. The one place that they're lacking is the college world because Nike, to a lesser extent, Under Armour, Swoosh, they all, Jordan Swoosh, they all have their guys. And in the world of NIL, you want your product to be on the best possible product on the court too. So part of me wonders, and this is me just spitballing here, is yes, Steve Smith, I'm sure, was a big part of this, but you have to get him here first. And then I wonder if part of this is that New Balance is putting all this money into this partnership. They want to get a return. And having a completely empty Conti Forum, or mostly orange in the case of a game against Syracuse, isn't doing it for them. You need to bring talent here and maybe put a little bit more investment to get a return on your investment. So I wonder if New Balance is pushing for this. I wonder if New Balance is going to be helping Boston College in their recruitment. It would make sense for all parties. It's not like me just making this up out of the blue. I've been waiting for this for a while. I've been waiting for New Balance to say, hey, we're part of this game too. We're part of this NIL program. We got to be able to figure out how to get more eyeballs on Boston College. So that's just something I've been spitballing in the back of my mind as part of the reason maybe they're getting guys like this here. They need a face to the school, to these shoes. You don't want New Balance. Like think of marketing wise, right? New Balance is on like 2 or 3 schools in the entire country, and one of them is Boston College, who is right now the worst program in Power 4 football, basketball. Not even it's not even me just spitballing. That's what they are. Do you really want that to be your portfolio? No, you want your team up there playing in March Madness. You want your team having high caliber players. So maybe there's a piece of this going on. I'm just thinking it would make a lot of sense. But, do I think that Toni Bryant will come to Boston College? I think it's a long shot. I do. We'll be finding out more about where he's at, what other visits he has. I think Caleb Sanders is very much a possibility. I've heard a lot of good buzz about that one, but he kind of fits the mold of a lot of Boston College, offers. He has only a few handful of offers. He's not highly rated. So that kind of just pushes the status quo. But with the way things are going with Earl Grant, not going backwards, I guess, is the best part, right? But this is exciting. In a sense that if they can do this, it raises the question, are you okay with a couple more years of Earl Grant if it brings you Toni Bryant? Will Toni Bryant be the kind of player that could turn this program around? Is Toni Bryant the kind of player that could finally elevate Boston College to that next level? Again, a lot of this is hypotheticals, sure, but I'm just thinking, like, if this craziness was to happen, where would this program go because of that? Like, he could be the face of this program and bring them to the next level. Caleb Sanders is a nice piece too. Like, if you bring in both, man, that would be a solid get for Earl Grant. I know Steve Smith, as I mentioned earlier, he's an excellent recruiter. He brought in some big names to Florida State. And that was part of the appeal, I'm sure, for Earl Grant, is like, you're bringing in an ace recruiter. Like, Anthony Goings was fine, the guy that was there before. But Steve Smith, like, he was Leonard Hamilton's, he was his ace in the hole. He was his big name, like a guy that could close on some big recruits that got Florida State off the ground. So, yes, the odds low, sure. But it's worth mentioning, it happened. He was here. He seemed to have a good time. There were lots of pictures of him with fans knowing who he was, which I think is great. Like, anytime you can get that, like, little bit of acknowledgement, push his ego a little bit, that's not a bad thing. So that part went really well, but we'll have to wait and see what happens next. Like, if he has, 6 more official visits, that might be tough. But if Bryant's like, if he's feeling it, you never know what could happen. Now, in our final segment, I'm going to get a little bit more negative. Boston College loses in basketball, but it was the comments that Earl Grant made afterwards that really kind of set my stomach in the wrong direction. I'll explain what I mean about that in just a moment. Attending the new 12-team college football playoff games is an incredible experience that brings fans together like never before. I remember the excitement of past playoff games and can't wait to make new memories with the updated format and extra teams involved. Are you pumped about Notre Dame and Ohio State? I'm very excited about this. Now, Game Time has a new feature called Game Time Picks that makes getting tickets for events even easier. It filters out the fluff to show you incredible deals on great seats, so you don't have to wait time searching through thousands of tickets. Recently, I used Game Time Picks to find tickets for an upcoming game. Browsing through the deals was easy. I found great value for all kinds of seats around the venue. The super deal in particular stood out as the best value for this event. I love that I could see the seat views before buying, and the app shows the total upfront cost with no surprise fees at checkout. Plus, the on-time ticket delivery and lowest prices guarantee was a complete peace of mind for me. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your purchase. Terms apply. Again, create a code and redeem code LOCKEDONCOLLEGE for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute, lowest prices guaranteed. This is Locked On Boston College. I am your host, AJ Black. Thank you all for joining me. And when you're done with today's episode, let me tell you a second listen you should check out. Check out the Locked On ACC podcast with Alex Dono and Kenton Gibbs. I'm really interested to see what they have to talk about Carson Beck. And will he change things for Miami? I don't think so, but we'll hear what they have to say. Get that on YouTube or wherever you get your podcast. Now, wrapping things up here on Locked On BC. On Saturday, Boston College played against Syracuse. It was another sad, really kind of depressing loss for the Eagles as they had it and just let it slip. And the worst part, it was against a undermanned Syracuse team. It was that Syracuse was missing one of their best players, and they still couldn't beat them. Now, as depressing as the loss was, Earl Grant's comments after the game really hit me the wrong way. And I want to credit Jack Bargamini. I apologize if Jack, I just totally butchered your name, of the Heights, who said, he quoted from the press conference, "It was a back and forth game. If I was a fan, I probably really enjoyed the game. I kind of enjoyed coaching it, but I probably would have enjoyed it more as a fan. It was entertaining." That was what Earl Grant said after that loss. That is bad. Like, how can you say that? There was nothing entertaining about that game. That game was brutality at its core. You blew a solid lead late in the game. You had your rivals on the ropes and you blew it. How is that entertaining? How is that entertaining for you as a coach? As a fan listening to your press conference, how could anyone say that that was entertaining? It wasn't. It was the complete opposite of entertaining. I would, I'm not going to, sometimes if I'm put on the spot, like if I'm on a podcast, sometimes my answers don't come out the way I want them to. If I'm talking to another school's podcast series or whatever, and I go, I wish I could have said something different. But I can tell you one thing. I don't ever go out there and say something that is completely offensive like this. BC fans are dying for wins. They are dying to beat Syracuse. You could have beaten them for the second time in a row. That would be some nice, something to climb onto or to grab onto here. No, instead, you're calling it entertaining. I think the reason most BC fans aren't showing up to games anymore is because it's not entertaining. Losing to your rival is not entertaining. Blowing a lead is not entertaining. Going for long periods of the game near the end where you can't score is not entertaining. Leaving Donald Hand on your bench is not entertaining. Watching Chaz Kelly struggle game in and game out is not entertaining. Look, I want to see BC basketball survive. I want to see them get better. I want to see them improve. But when they're playing like this, and you got your coach saying things like this after the game, it does not make your program look good. It makes your program look like it's Tiny Toons. It's not like what you're expecting it to be. It's not an ACC level program. The ACC this year is not good. Virginia is beatable. Virginia, like all these teams you could beat, and you get blown out by Georgia Tech. You just lost to Syracuse, who isn't good. You're an 11.5-point underdog on the road against a below 500 Notre Dame team. That's how bad things are right now. That's not entertaining. Okay? There's comments that are made at press conferences, whether it'll come together and it'll be beautiful. Jeff Halfley saying about all the guys loving each other or whatever that was that he used to always say. This one, about it being entertaining, this may be the frosting on the cake. This may be the worst comment I've heard a BC coach say in the last 20 years. This is up there with Middle Schmiddle, if you guys remember Frank Spaziani on that missed field goal against Duke in 2011. This was bad. And I hope that Earl Grant learns from this. And we talk more about, it was not entertaining. We should have won that game. And I get my fans are upset because we didn't win that game. That's what you should be saying. Sorry. I heard that and I had to rant about it. You knew it was coming. I hope it's okay. Now, we'll be back again tomorrow. Hopefully, there's a class of 26 football recruit that I'm waiting to hear about his commitment. If he commits, I will go live. I will not go live. That's a lie. I will record and talk about it for tomorrow's show if it happens. If we have to wait a little bit longer, I can't break it for you. Check out all my work at Eagle Insider. Check out everything here on Locked On. The last 2 weeks, there's been lots of evergreen content. That means stuff you can listen to. Like if you're done with this, go back and check out last week's show. There's a whole bunch of them about if you want to learn about the transfers. We had Mitch on to talk about football. Lots of good stuff. So make sure you do that and hit that like and subscribe button wherever you get your podcast before you leave. Give us 5 stars too if you're up to it. Thank you all for listening. We'll see you all again tomorrow for another episode of Locked On Boston College, your team every day.